Namaskar. Atomic energy is one of those fields where India has made its own mark. India started from a place which is called nowhere, and today the Department of Atomic Energy of India has arrived at a place which is called now here. Indian scientists and the Department of Atomic Energy is one of the most respected names on the international horizon. How we arrived here, what are the challenges, what are our future plans, we are going to discuss it with our guest Dr. Vyas, who is the chairman of Atomic Energy Commission and Secretary of Department of Atomic Energy. Namaskar. Welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you.
So let's start with where we have arrived today. Atomic energy has become a major, one of those major sources of power and energy security for India. So in what way atomic energy is important for India? Why we can't live without it?
One of the advantage of nuclear power station is it has the ability to provide reliably for a long period of time the power supply, while as you know in case of solar and in case of wind it becomes little difficult because it depends upon the condition of the condition of the nature. So we feel that to renewable nuclear can play a very big complementary role, and I feel in that way India, which has been making nuclear power station since 1969, that is the first Tarapur BWR in collaboration with General Electric was commissioned exactly 50 years back, that is in 1969, and we have a very vast experience of operation of nuclear reactors in a reliable way.
So you mean that we have sufficient know-how and infrastructure to go ahead in the field of atomic energy?
Yes. See, for example, earlier, as I said, in 1969 we had collaboration with United States of America, and General Electric had given the power plant, and I would say practically everything had come from the foreign country. But now India is making pressurized heavy water reactor which are fully indigenous, and they have demonstrated time and again the reliability of the system, ability to operate continuously without stopping. If you can allow me, I would just like to say that on the last 31st of December, Kaiga nuclear power station, one of the unit completed,
in Karnataka.
Yes, in Karnataka, it completed 962 days of continuous run, non-stop, and that too at a very high capacity factor of more than 93%, and it has given almost 5 billion units to the grid as a result of
so
that.
That brings us to one point. Where do we stand today? How much energy India needs, and how much right now we are producing through atomic energy?
Here I would like to say that the total contribution to the grid from nuclear energy is very small. We are able to add only about 3% of total electricity demand of using the nuclear sources, but one of the reasons I personally feel is because in the initial period all the nuclear power stations that we set up, they were having smaller capacity, they were all 220 megawatt capacity. So that way if you see in India we have got 22 nuclear power station. In the number of operating nuclear power station wise, India's number is about 7, that is largest is United States, and then 7th, which is more than the number of power station in United Kingdom as well as maybe other advanced countries like say Ukraine and so on. But so we have very good experience, but now India has decided that they will set up all power station which are of higher capacity,
How much higher
700
capacity?
megawatt electric capacity.
And in each place,
in
how many units are there?
Some of the present units are going to be located at the same location where already NPCL has its presence. Like in Kakrapar, 2 700 megawatt units are under construction. Similarly in Rajasthan also 2 700 megawatt units are under construction, and in Haryana, Gorakhpur, there are additional 2 more units which are under construction. They are at different stages of completion. Gorakhpur the work has just started, while in Kakrapar the work is the construction work is in the final stages of completion.
So, does it mean that a nuclear plant, whatever space it occupies, we would like to know from you those advantages or disadvantages it has over, for example, hydel power. If we compare, one most famous example is Bhakra Dam. So, a normal nuclear station which are functional today, if we compare a normal station to say Bhakra Dam, where do these two stand?
See, basically when it comes to nuclear power station, the area which is going to be occupied for you can say for accommodating the plant, including the exclusion radius, it would be relatively much less compared to a large size dam that if we try to construct. So, you can say the problems faced by persons as a part of displacement in case of nuclear power station, we expect it to be lesser. In my personal opinion, nuclear power would be more convenient, because we may not have new sites available for construction of new dams, because majority of the large rivers we have tried to harness and we have exploited.
There is a limit.
Yes.
We can't have more rivers and more
Right.
space for that.
At least large capacity dam we may not be in a position.
So, you said one advantage is the emissions,
Yeah,
pollution,
correct.
where it is minimum,
Yes.
much smaller. You said the space it occupies or displacement is another.
G.
Which other major advantages you see of nuclear plants over all other
See,
systems?
for example, in case of solar, it is an excellent source of power generation, but the problem is availability of sunlight is little erratic, and specifically during night it is, I mean, obviously
In
unless you
cloudy
have the
days.
storage capacity, we will not be able to, that solar power station will not be able to give. But I would just like to mention here that the total electricity generation in India is relatively very less, that is per capita electricity consumption, which is hardly about 11 what I recall is about 2017-18 data, it is about 1100 to 1150 kilowatt hour per person per year. So, it is a very small capacity. So, any power generation by any means is good. I would certainly say that solar is very important, but nuclear can easily play a complementary role, which by providing a base load power station. And compared to solar, since nuclear is much more concentrated, it will occupy much lesser space compared to solar.
Yeah. So, then another question comes, how Department of Atomic Energy has it joined hands with the Indian industry or the educational institutions?
Okay. Basically, you need definitely, as you said, backbone of industry to construct big plants. So, we have more than 2-3 firms who have capability to take up civil construction for a nuclear power station, including the associated structure for water intake, water outfall and so on. We have firms who can make critical reactor components also, like in pressurized heavy water reactor, the reactor vessel is called Calandria. So, we have firms who can make that.
They are Indian firms.
They are Indian firms. Then one very vital component in the nuclear power station is a steam generator. We have more than one firm who can make it. So, over a period, NPCL has collaborated with Indian industry, and subsequently they have been able to work along with them and train them how to make nuclear systems, and now they are perfectly capable of delivering the items.
Right. So, you raised the question of training companies and their manpower, which is suitable for erecting new nuclear stations. Now, the question is of manpower in the field of pure science, the nuclear science. Your department has already, you have so many scientists, but the question is where from to generate the new younger generation of scientists. What steps have you taken?
See, basically let us take two cases. There are many research areas wherein we have collaboration with different universities, IITs and so on. So, what is done is DAE as a part of BRNS, which is called Board of Research in Nuclear Sciences, they fund some of the universities where some of the facilities are set up. Then young students who are doing MTech or PhD, they carry out research using those facilities. The professors guide them, and occasionally the DAE experts also participate with the professors, and then ultimately some experiments are carried out, some theoretical analysis is carried out, and it forms an input not only for I would say the designers, but it forms sometimes input even for regulators. In addition to that, in BRC we have large amount of work carried out for agricultural sciences. For that also we have collaboration with agricultural universities, and the seeds which are found to be useful or showing promise by BRC, they are given to those agricultural universities, and they confirm whether really the seeds are advantageous, do they have any enhanced properties, and then finally
we will come to these issues,
Okay,
how the atomic energy and the knowledge you have acquired, how it is being implemented in other fields.
Yes.
And so far we have discussed that how we have arrived here, where we stand, why nuclear energy is important, and soon we are going to discuss the future plans of Department of Atomic Energy, and also the major question of how nuclear energy is safe, how much safety element is there, and in what way the knowledge you have acquired is going to be or is already being implemented in other fields. We will come back to these issues after a break. So now we come to the issue of where we stand and what plans we have for future, because India, as you said, right now is producing only a very small part of our actual requirements of power. And do you think we'll be in a position in future to reach a level where atomic energy will form a major part of our requirement?
I personally have reason to be optimistic about this. To tell you the fact, now all the plants are going to be about 700 megawatt. So, even if we set up one plant, it will be almost 3 plants of the earlier time. Secondly, we have collaboration with different foreign countries. For example, in Kudankulam, Russian Federation is setting up 4 more additional plants which are all of 1000 megawatt. We are in one place, and there are talks going on with both EDF, which is of France, and Westinghouse. So, I am hopeful that with the support of government, where government had indicated that NPCL can construct 10 plants, which was I would say this clearance was given sometime in 2016-17, wherein 10 indigenous plants as well as this 4 plants which are coming up at Kudankulam, and negotiations are continuing with the French government as well as USA also. So, I feel we should be able to generate relatively a large capacity in the nuclear field.
There is
as
one
well.
more interesting issue about India.
Yeah.
Because everybody is talking about the possibilities that thorium holds for atomic energy production. And as we read, India is one of those countries which is among the richest in the field of availability of thorium.
Yeah.
So this converting thorium into atomic energy. So how serious and how advanced we are right now in exploiting our asset called thorium?
See, basically, if you see all our visionary planners, they have divided Indian nuclear power program in 3 stages. First stage is construction of pressurized heavy water reactor, and utilization of thorium is proposed to be exploited in the third stage, wherein the plutonium which is available will be useful for converting thorium into ultimately a fissile material or fissile isotope, which is uranium 233. So far as research is concerned, I would say India is among the most I would say knowledgeable nation in the world so far as thorium cycle is concerned, because for any engineering application you have to carry out tremendous amount of material science research, which means whatever form in which we are going to use this thorium in, we should understand its physical properties, we should be able to understand how it will behave if it is irradiated, we should be able to understand the reprocessing part, that is we should be able to take out uranium 233 from thorium. So in this we are among most advanced all over the world, because huge amount of work has been done in last about 8 to 10 years, very concentrated effort has been put in. But when it comes to really mining thorium and putting it in the reactor, it will still take some time. The reason being, so far the cycle is not going to be economic, because ultimately if NPCL tries to produce electricity, electricity should be so economically viable. Yes. So a time will come, maybe after few tens of years, maybe 20, 30 years or so, where our thorium resources would be, we will be able to exploit them fully well.
So does it mean that thorium can be a major source of atomic energy power for India in coming years, say after 50 years or?
Yes, certainly so, because see, for example, when we try to make fuel using thorium, it is likely to have relatively large amount of radioactivity. So BARC has developed plants where the complete fuel fabrication or major part of the fuel fabrication can be done remotely without really any human intervention. It's all automated plant with working with robots and other automated system. We have in India at IGCAR one reactor which is fueled using uranium 233, which is called Kamini reactor, Kalpakam mini, it stands for Kalpakam mini reactor. So I would say when it comes to preparation, we have done excellent amount of preparation. The moment it becomes economically viable, which I expect that maybe about 40 years, 50 years from today,
you mean it will?
It should become viable, and we will be able to exploit it.
If we translate into real, the utility, what do you think that thorium can last? How long, as far as India is concerned, and how much percentage of our requirements this technology can handle?
See, basically, I am not really an energy system planner, where I would say I have done independent study or I have been briefed. Right. But it could be easily few hundred years. Maybe I would give a guess of about 500 years or so with the amount of resources.
500 years. And
so,
if we compare it with the, say, the oil we have available and the coal we have available, would you please just tell us the comparison?
No, see, typically when it comes to oil, unfortunately India has to import relatively a very large fraction of oil. So if you compare it with coal we may say that it will last for another, say, maybe 70, 80 years or 80 years or so. while in case of thorium, certainly we are thinking of relatively much more long term future. So, what I feel is that it is very difficult for me to sort of do crystal gazing and then say what will happen after about 200, 300 years or so, but I feel nuclear can provide a very big sort of support for that intermediate period, wherein by the time other genuinely renewable sources which are say sun or so become fully available, that is we are able to fully
so we can
exploit.
say that investment in whether it is thorium or other technologies, it's good for the future.
This is what at least we all believe, and I feel that all over the world there are so many countries who are also pursuing nuclear energy. China is constructing so many plants, Russia is constructing so many plants, USA still has more than almost 100 plants presently operational. So, I feel that nuclear energy is useful and it can really give us the electrical supply which can increase the productivity of India.
So now it brings us to that question which you must have been already answering. You must have answered it so many times. The question is about safety of nuclear energy. We see many times, and I am not exaggerating, I think, that nuclear energy in India is more in news because of some negative publicity than for the good things you have done. There is a lot of noise about nuclear energy being unsafe. And we have seen so many organizations, NGOs holding demonstrations and raising objections. How do you look at this criticism?
See, how I look at it is this: in case of nuclear energy, to some extent it is fear of unknown. That is, there is radiation which is emanating from radioactive substances, and it passes through me, I do not even see as to what has happened. And since it is unknown, it gives me a fear that I do not know how much radiation I have got and whether it will sort of harm me in any way or not. So, this is one part. Second thing, what happens is these nuclear reactors, there are we have all nuclear engineers, they use this word very often, and you must have also heard it, which is called defense in depth. We have multiple barriers which will prevent harmful radioactive substances coming out of the reactor plant. So, public, which is when I say public, I am not just referring to people who are living at the boundary of nuclear power station, but even workers. They are sort of means the regulatory body insists that all the workers must remain safe, and the amount of radiation that they are sort of likely to get because of radiation worker, it should be much lower than proven value of whatever that harmful effects
and
the radiation
is it in real?
It is so. Otherwise, the nuclear power station, they will not allow us to operate, and you must sort of recognize this fact that these are all internationally accepted sort of standards, wherein if one country decides that no, I do not want to agree to these lower level of radiation standards, there will be a tremendous amount of, I would say, international sort of efforts to make sure that a country which is not agreeing to this will be sort of asked to somehow agree to, because these are some of the internationally accepted norms.
So, what does it, if I ask you to say it in nutshell, can you say that Indian atomic power stations are safe or maybe safer than others?
Safety guidelines and safety principles are identical all throughout the world. The very fact that India has 22 operational reactors, and these are all very complex technologies, and so far no accident has taken place which has resulted into exposure of people at large.
I see. So, you mean there has never been a nuclear as such accident?
Because of accident, no, you can say, as you know, there is an exclusion radius beyond which you can say the people can inhabit the place, and nowhere the dose has gone to the extent where it is not accepted by regulators. So, just to give an example, what is needed is overall safety culture in the system. That is, the persons who are manufacturing the equipment, they should do perfectly, the people who are operating, they should do perfectly, and there are enough guidelines independently followed who also ensure.
Okay. So, now we come to a major point, that atomic energy has been utilized in many other fields we see which are non-nuclear, the non-nuclear application of the nuclear knowledge. Would you please tell us in short what are the contributions of Department of Atomic Energy in various fields?
We have certain radioisotope like lutetium, which is used for prostate cancer detection as well as treatment, and it has been accepted world over that this is the correct way to do the treatment. Similarly, for agriculture, we have developed genetically enhanced seeds which has got more yield, it has got better properties like drought resistance and so on, and more than 40 varieties of seeds are released in Indian Indian by ICAR for Indian farmers. So, there are variety of sort of aspects which are, we can say, non-power application, but which are very much useful to the society. For example, if you do irradiation, the food preservation can be ensured. The way we must have seen the ladies in our home, they warm the some sort of that semolina or suji, and then you find that it does not get spoiled. So, radiation also can do the job, not only for just one product, but a variety of products like even fruits and so on.
Yeah, mango has been a good example.
Yes, mango has been exported to foreign countries including USA. It is thanks to this irradiation.
So, of course, there are so many other issues which we could have discussed in this discussion, but thank you very much, and let us hope we meet you again with some more information, more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.